2 days passed since the Kralaxians had visited the USS Horizon. During this time, Commander Zrax had contacted Captain Wright several times, asking more questions about dogs and other Earth animals. The tense first meeting had slowly changed into something that almost felt like friendly talks between two curious species. Amy sat in the ship's mess hall with Max curled up at her feet. She was having lunch with Chief Porter and Lieutenant Kelly. "I still can't believe a puppy might have prevented an interstellar war," Lieutenant Kelly said, taking a bite of his sandwich. Chief Porter laughed. "Who would have thought aliens would be so impressed by a dog?" "I don't think it's just about being impressed," Amy said thoughtfully, reaching down to pet Max. "I think Commander Zrax is truly curious about the relationship between humans and animals. It seems the Kralaxians don't have anything like that in their culture." "Lieutenant Bennett to the bridge," came Captain Wright's voice over the ship's speakers. "Urgent." Amy quickly stood up. "Come on, Max," she said, and the puppy followed her as she hurried from the mess hall. When Amy reached the bridge, she found the captain standing tensely before the main view screen. On the screen was Commander Zrax, looking more serious than during their recent conversations. "Lieutenant Bennett, good," Captain Wright said as she entered. "Commander Zrax was just informing me that another Kralaxian ship has arrived in the area." "Not just any ship," Zrax said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in what Amy had learned was a sign of stress. "It is the Conqueror, flagship of our fleet, commanded by High Commander Rek himself." "And this is bad?" Amy asked, picking up Max, as the puppy tried to get a better look at the alien on the screen. "High Commander Rek is..." Zrax seemed to search for the right words. "He is not known for diplomacy. He believes the Dominion must expand through conquest, not through talks or agreements." Captain Wright's face grew serious. "Why is he here?" "Commander? He received my initial reports but not my later ones," Zrax explained. "He believes I am taking too long to prepare your vessel for boarding and your planet for colonization. He has come to speed things up." Amy and Captain Wright exchanged worried glances. "What can we do?" the captain asked. "He has ordered me to bring you aboard his ship," Zrax said. "You and Lieutenant Bennett with the beast. He wishes to see this creature that has delayed our mission." Amy held Max a little tighter. "Is that safe?" "I do not know," Zrax admitted. "But refusing would only convince him that immediate action is necessary." Captain Wright thought for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, we'll come, but as representatives of Earth, not as prisoners." "I understand," Zrax said. "I will transport you to my ship first, then we will go to the Conqueror together. That may soften the meeting." 30 minutes later, Amy and Captain Wright stood in the Horizon's transporter room with Max. They had changed into their formal uniforms, and Amy had put a small collar on Max with the Earth Alliance symbol. "Remember," Captain Wright said quietly to Amy, "we're not just representing our ship now, but all of humanity. This could be the difference between peace and war." Amy nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Yes, sir." The transporter beam surrounded them with shimmering light, and then they were standing in the transport room of Zrax's ship. The room was larger than they expected, with dark metal walls covered in strange symbols. Commander Zrax greeted them personally. "Thank you for coming. We must proceed quickly to the Conqueror. High Commander Rek does not like to be kept waiting." They followed Zrax through corridors filled with Kralaxian crew members, who stopped and stared at the humans, and especially at Max, as they passed. The puppy seemed unbothered by all the alien attention, trotting happily alongside Amy. Soon, they were on another transport pad and again surrounded by light. When it faded, they found themselves in a much larger, grander room. The ceiling was at least 30 feet high, and everything was made of shining black metal with red lighting. Standing in the center of the room was a Kralaxian much larger than any they had seen before. High Commander Vrek stood nearly 8 feet, tall, his gray skin darker and covered with what looked like battle scars. His armor was more elaborate than the soldiers, with red markings that seemed to indicate his high rank. "So these are the humans," Rex said, his voice much deeper than Zrax's. They look even weaker up close. Commander Zrax bowed slightly. Hi, Commander. May I present Captain Frank Wright and Lieutenant Amy Bennett of the Earth vessel USS Horizon. Rek barely looked at them. And where is this beast I've heard so much about? The one that has caused such delay in our plans, Amy? Stepped forward with Max. The puppy looked tiny in the massive room surrounded by aliens. Rek leaned down, his four eyes narrowing as he studied Max. This small creature is the reason you have failed to secure the human vessel? I expected something impressive. Hi, Commander, Zrax began. I've been sending reports explaining that there may be benefits to peaceful contact with the humans rather than... I've read your reports, Rek interrupted harshly. They make no sense. Since when does the Kralaxian Dominion seek benefits from lesser species? We conquer, we rule. That is our way. Captain Wright spoke up, keeping his voice calm and respectful. Hi, Commander Rek. We've been sharing information with Commander Zrax about Earth and our various species. Perhaps you'd like to learn more before making decisions about our world? I need no information from you, Rek said dismissively. Zrax, prepare the humans for questioning. I will bring a full team to inspect their vessel for weaknesses. Zrax hesitated, something Amy had never seen him do before. High Commander, with respect, I believe we should... Enough. Rek's voice echoed through the massive room. Your behavior concerns me, Commander. Perhaps spending time with these humans has weakened your resolve. Captain Wright glanced at Amy, a silent message passing between them. The situation was deteriorating quickly. Hi, Commander, Amy said suddenly, stepping forward with Max. Before you make your decision, would you allow me to show you what this creature can do? Rek looked down at her with what appeared to be amusement. You wish to entertain me with tricks? Very well, human. Show me why Commander Zrax finds this beast so fascinating. Amy set Max down on the floor. The puppy looked around at the unfamiliar surroundings, staying close to her legs. Max, Amy said clearly, sit. The puppy sat immediately. Rek made a sound that might have been a laugh. Impressive. It can lower its body on command. There's more, Amy insisted. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small ball she had brought along. Max, catch! She tossed the ball across the room. Max ran after it, caught it midair with a little jump, and brought it back to Amy proudly. It fetches objects, Rek said flatly. Truly revolutionary. Amy could tell she wasn't making progress. She needed something more dramatic. Looking around the large room, she noticed several Kralaxian guards standing at attention along the walls. High Commander, she said, would you allow one of your guards to hide somewhere in this room? I want to show you Max's tracking abilities. Rek seemed slightly more interested. Very well. He barked an order to one of the guards, who immediately left his post and disappeared through a door at the far end of the room. Now what? Rek asked. Now, Amy said, kneeling beside Max. I'll show you what a dog can really do, she whispered to Max. Find him, boy. Find the guard. Max's ears perked up. He began sniffing the floor, moving in widening circles. Suddenly his head went up, and he raced toward the door the guard had used. He scratched at it, barking excitedly. He wants us to open the door, Amy explained. He's found the trail. Rek nodded to another guard who opened the door. Max rushed through, with the humans and Kralaxians following. The puppy led them down a corridor, around two corners, and straight, to a storage room where the guard was hiding. Remarkable, Zrax said proudly, as if Max's achievement was somehow his too. And this is just a juvenile. Imagine what fully trained adult specimens can do. Rek was silent for a moment, watching as Max wagged his tail, happy to have completed his task successfully. The creature has some use, he admitted finally. But is this enough reason to delay our plans for Earth? High Commander, Captain Wright said carefully. Perhaps there's another way to look at this. If humans can form such partnerships with animals, imagine what kind of alliance we might form with the Kralaxian Dominion, if given the chance. Alliance? Rek repeated the word as if it were foreign to him. Yes, Amy added quickly. Shared knowledge, trade, cultural exchange. There's so much we could learn from each other. Vrek turned to Zrax. Is this what you've been considering? An alliance rather than conquest? Commander Zrax stood straighter. Yes, High Commander. After observing these humans and their relationship with other species, I believe there may be advantages to a different approach than our usual one. High Commander Vrek looked down at Max, who had returned to Amy's side. The puppy looked up at the towering alien without fear, his tail still wagging gently. Unleash the beast, Vrek said suddenly. Everyone froze. Amy looked up in confusion. What? Your Commander Zrax has told me of your demonstration on your ship, Vrek explained. He said you can command the beast to attack. Show me. Unleash it now. Amy and Captain Wright exchanged alarmed glances. The stars shimmered against the blackness of space. Beyond the edges of Earth's solar system, something was coming. The Zithar Collective had ruled most of the Milky Way galaxy for over 50,000 years. They had crushed hundreds of alien races and taken their planets. Now they looked to expand into what they thought was an empty arm of the galaxy. Emperor Vorthalik sat on his crystalline throne aboard the massive command ship. His scaled skin gleamed under the soft blue lights of the Imperial chamber. What have your scouts found in the new territories? He asked his chief admiral. Admiral Kexvor bowed low. My Emperor, we have found a small solar system with 8 planets. The third planet has life, primitive beings who call themselves humans. They have basic space travel, but only within their own system. They have no faster-than-light capability. The Emperor waved a 6-fingered hand dismissively. Are they a threat? No, my Emperor. They fight among themselves constantly. They have nuclear weapons but have barely reached their own moon. We have watched them for 6 months. Send a small force to bring them under our rule. They will serve. As miners or laborers, the Emperor said, already thinking about other matters. This was the Empire's first mistake. They didn't bother to learn more about these humans. Lieutenant Amanda Russell loved flying. As she guided her transport ship back from Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, she thought about how far humanity had come. 10 years ago, regular trips to Jupiter's moon seemed impossible. Now she made the run monthly, bringing supplies to the research station and returning with scientific samples. Control, this is Transport Echo 7 returning from Europa. All systems normal, she reported. Copy that, Echo 7. You're clear for standard approach, the voice from Mars Base replied. Amanda adjusted her course, then frowned at her sensor display. Something was wrong. A bright dot appeared where nothing should be. Control, I'm picking up an unidentified object at coordinates 37 Mark 42. It's not on any flight plan. Before Control could respond, the dot moved. Fast. Much faster than any human ship could travel. Control. The object is changing course, heading directly toward me at... That can't be right. At nearly 1/10 light speed. The object slowed as it approached, and Amanda's jaw dropped. Through her viewport she saw something that didn't belong to Earth or any human nation. The ship was smooth and oval, with strange glowing symbols along its hull. It was beautiful and terrifying. Amanda's hands shook as she opened all communication channels. Unknown vessel. This is Transport Echo 7 from Earth. We welcome peaceful contact. The alien ship moved closer. Amanda repeated her message in several languages. She tried simple mathematical sequences, universal patterns that any advanced civilization should recognize as communication attempts. Inside the scout ship, Commander Zeltorak observed the human vessel with distaste. Primitive design. Their communication attempts are using basic radio waves. Should we respond, Commander? His second asked. The Emperor wants information on their defenses. Move closer and scan their ship. The Zithar ship approached Amanda's transport. A green beam shot out, sweeping over her ship. Amanda's controls flickered. Alarms blared. Control. I'm being scanned by unknown technology. My systems are failing. Fearing an attack, Amanda activated her emergency protocols. Her ship's defense system, designed to repel small asteroids, fired a burst of kinetic rounds into space. Commander Zeltorak jumped from his seat as tiny impacts rattled against his ship's shields. They're attacking! Return fire! A pulse of energy shot from the alien vessel, striking Amanda's engine. Her ship spun wildly. Mayday! Mayday! I'm hit! She screamed, fighting the controls. Through skill and luck, she managed to stabilize enough to limp toward Mars base. The Zethar ship didn't pursue. Commander Zeltorak had what he needed, confirmation that humans would respond with violence. He turned his ship and vanished into deep space, heading home to report. 3 days later on Earth, General Frank Carter stood before the United Earth Defense Council. The room was silent as video from Amanda Russell's damaged ship played on the large screen. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said when the recording ended, "we are not alone, and our first contact has gone badly." Admiral Diane Powell, a stern woman, with gray-streaked hair, spoke first. "We need to prepare for war. If they come back, it will be with more ships." Dr. Alan Morris, a thin man with kind eyes, disagreed. "We should try to communicate again. This could be a misunderstanding." The debate raged for hours. By evening, one thing was clear. Earth needed to prepare, just in case. Within days, the governments of Earth set aside their differences and signed the Solar Defense Act. Resources poured into military and scientific development. Scientists worked day and night on experimental technologies. Dr. Karen Wright led the research team examining Amanda's sensor data. "The energy readings from their weapon are like nothing we've seen before," she told General Carter. "But we might be able to develop shields against it." "How long?" the general asked. "Months, not years. We're building on theoretical work that was already underway." Around the solar system, humanity prepared. Military bases on the moon expanded. The Mars colony transformed into a defensive outpost. Asteroid mining operations doubled their production to provide raw materials. Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial Command Station, Commander Zeltorak delivered his report to the High Command. "These humans are belligerent and primitive. When we scanned their vessel, they immediately attacked with primitive projectile weapons." Admiral Zevran, a decorated war leader with scars across his face, laughed. "Projectiles? Against our shields? Why are we even discussing this?" The Imperial strategist, an older Zethar named Vorleth, cautioned. "Their system has abundant resources, and they adapted to space travel quickly for a young species. They're barely past their moon." Admiral Zevran dismissed him. "A single battle group will be sufficient to pacify them." Emperor Vorthalek, listening from his throne, nodded. "Admiral Zevran, take 15 ships and secure this system. If the humans submit, they may live as servants. If not, make an example of one of their cities." Admiral Zevran bowed. "It will be done, my emperor." This was the Empire's second mistake. They sent too small a force, commanded by an officer who didn't take the humans seriously. On Earth, preparations continued. In a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lieutenant Commander Paul Harris oversaw the final installation of Project Artemis, a network of defensive satellites designed to counter the alien technology. "Will it work?" General Carter asked, watching technicians make final adjustments. "In theory," Paul replied. "The satellites generate magnetic pulses that should disrupt their energy weapons, based on what Lieutenant Russell recorded. But we won't know until we try it against their actual technology." On the moon, Captain Olivia Martinez trained pilots for the newly constructed fighter ships. These weren't ordinary spacecraft. They incorporated theoretical technology that scientists had deemed too experimental just months ago. "Again," she shouted as her pilots ran another simulation. "If you hesitate for even a second, you'll die." One young pilot, John Kent, wiped sweat from his brow. "Captain, these maneuvers are impossible." "They're not impossible," she replied. "I can do them. And by next week, all of you will do them too, or you'll be replaced." The training was harsh, but necessary. Everyone knew what was at stake. 3 months after first contact, Earth's deep space radar detected movement. 15 alien ships entered the solar system, moving past Neptune's orbit. In command centers around the world, alarms sounded. General Carter called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. "They're here," he announced. 15 ships heading Directly for Earth. Admiral Powell studied the tactical display. Have they detected our defenses? Unknown. But they're moving confidently. On the main screen, they watched as the alien fleet approached. A transmission came through on all Earth's communication channels. The face that appeared was alien, reptilian, with purple-tinted scales and vertical pupils. People of Earth, Admiral Zevran spoke in perfect English, having studied Earth's broadcasts. I am Admiral Zevran of the Zithar Collective. Your planet is now under Imperial control. Surrender your governments to us, and you may live as subjects of the Emperor. Resist, and we will destroy your major cities one by one. The room fell silent. Then Admiral Powell stepped forward. Open a channel, she ordered. When the connection was established, she spoke clearly. This is Admiral Diane Powell of Earth. We invite you to diplomatic talks. There is no need for violence. Admiral Zevran laughed. Diplomacy is for equals. You are not our equals. The transmission ended. The alien ships continued their approach, spreading out to surround Earth. They're positioning for bombardment, General Carter observed. Admiral Powell turned to her communications officer. Send the signal to Lieutenant Commander Harris. Activate Project Artemis. The battle for Earth was about to begin. High above Earth, 15 Zithar warships moved into position. Their sleek hulls gleamed in the sunlight as they spread out to cover the planet's major cities. On the command ship, Admiral Zevran smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Humans are predictable, he said to his officers. They offer diplomacy when faced with superior force. His second-in-command, Subcommander Vexlor, nodded. The Imperial database shows this is common among primitive species. They will surrender soon. Prepare the demonstration weapon, Admiral Zevran ordered. Target their city called New York. Once they see its destruction, the rest will submit. The massive ship turned slightly, pointing its main weapon toward Earth. Energy began to build, creating a green glow at the front of the vessel. Deep beneath the lunar surface, Lieutenant Commander Paul Harris sat in the control center of Project Artemis. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he watched the alien ships on his monitor. They're charging weapons, his sensor operator reported. Energy readings are climbing fast. Paul took a deep breath. Activate Artemis. All satellites, full power. Around Earth's orbit, 200 small satellites that had been hidden from alien sensors suddenly came to life. They looked like normal communication satellites, but each contained technology developed from Lieutenant Russell's encounter. Target the largest ship first, Paul ordered. The satellites adjusted their positions, focusing on Admiral Zevran's command vessel. They didn't fire lasers or missiles. Instead, they emitted precise magnetic pulses designed to disrupt the alien energy weapons. On the command ship, alarms suddenly blared. The green glow at the front of the vessel flickered and died. What's happening? Admiral Zevran demanded. Unknown energy field interfering with our systems, an officer reported. Weapons are offline, shields weakening. The Admiral slammed his fist on his command chair. Impossible. They're primitives. More energy signatures detected, another officer called out. Small objects launching from Earth. Captain Olivia Martinez felt the crushing force of acceleration as her fighter shot up from the secret base in the Nevada desert. Behind her, 20 more fighters followed, each piloted by the best Earth had to offer. Remember your training, she said into her communication system. Use the new pulse weapons only when you have a clear shot. Our goal is to disable, not destroy. The fighters were like nothing humans had built before. Black, sleek, and incorporating technology, reverse-engineered from the data Lieutenant Russell collected. They couldn't match Zithar ships for power, but they were smaller and more maneuverable. John Kent's voice came through her headset. Captain, I'm detecting shield weaknesses on the enemy vessels. The satellites are working. Perfect, Olivia replied. Delta formation. Target the smaller ships first. The human fighters spread out, approaching the alien fleet from multiple angles. The Zithar ships, their shields weakened by the magnetic pulses, turned to face this new threat. Admiral Zevran couldn't believe what he was seeing. Destroy those fighters. All ships. Defensive formation. The Zithar vessels fired energy beams at the approaching Earth fighters, but the humans were ready. They dodged with incredible precision, using maneuvers that pushed their ships and their bodies to the limit. Captain Martinez rolled her fighter to avoid a blast, then targeted one of the smaller Zithar ships. Firing pulse weapon, a burst of concentrated energy shot from her fighter, striking the alien vessel where the satellites had weakened its shields. The pulse traveled through the ship's hull, disrupting its internal systems. Across the battlefield, more human fighters found their targets. 5 Zithar ships drifted powerless, their systems fried by the pulse weapons. On Earth, General Carter and Admiral Powell watched the battle from the underground command center. "It's working," the general said, almost not believing it. "Admiral," Powell nodded. "Phase 1 complete. Now for Phase 2. She picked up her communication device. "Captain Martinez, clear a path to the command ship." In space, Captain Martinez received the order. "All fighters, focus on ships protecting the commander." "John, you're with me." She and John Kent led their fighters toward the largest Zithar vessel. The alien ships tried to block them, but Earth's fighters were too quick. On the command ship, Admiral Zevron was furious. "How is this possible? They shouldn't have this technology." "Admiral," Subcommander Vexlor reported, 5 of our ships are disabled. The humans are approaching our position. "Retreat," the Admiral ordered, his voice filled with rage. "All functioning ships retreat beyond their moon's orbit. We need to regroup." The remaining Zithar ships turned and accelerated away from Earth, including the damaged command ship. As they fled, Admiral Zevron knew his career, possibly his life, was in danger. The Emperor did not tolerate failure. Captain Martinez watched the alien ships retreat. "Should we pursue?" John Kent asked. "Negative," she replied. "We've accomplished our mission. Return to base." As the Earth fighters turned back toward home, cheers erupted in command centers around the world. Humanity had won its first battle against the Zithar Empire. 2 days later, in the Lunar Command Center, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss their victory and plan for what would come next. "We surprised them," General Carter said, "but they'll be back with more ships." Dr. Karen Wright, who had helped develop the pulse weapons, nodded. "We need to study the disabled ships we captured. Their technology is still far beyond ours." Admiral Powell pointed to the tactical display, where the remaining alien ships waited beyond the orbit of Mars. "They're calling for reinforcements. Our deep space probes have detected transmissions." "How long do we have?" asked General Carter. "Based on their communication technology, I'd estimate 3 months before reinforcements arrive," Dr. Wright replied. Admiral Powell stood up. "Then we have 3 months to prepare. We need more satellites, more fighters, and better weapons." Paul Harris spoke up. "Project Artemis worked better than expected, but the magnetic pulse technology won't surprise them twice. They'll adapt. Then, we need something new," Dr. Wright said. "I have some ideas based on the alien technology we've captured." Deep in space, Admiral Zevron's damaged command ship limped toward the nearest Imperial outpost. His scales had lost their luster, and his eyes burned with humiliation. "Send another message to Imperial Command," he ordered. "Request a full battle group. These humans are more dangerous than we thought." Subcommander Vexlor approached cautiously. "Admiral, the Emperor has responded to our first message." Zevron tensed. "What does he say?" "He is kinda displeased. He demands your presence to explain how primitives defeated Imperial warships." The Admiral closed his eyes briefly. "Set course for Imperial Center, maximum speed." As his ship changed direction, Zevron swore revenge. The humans would pay for his humiliation. He would return with a fleet so large they would have no chance of victory. Back on Earth, in a secure laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Ryan Miller examined pieces of alien technology recovered from the battlefield. His team worked day and night trying to understand how the Zithar ships traveled so quickly between stars. "Look at this," he said to his assistant, pointing to a strange crystal component. "It generates a field that seems to bend space itself." His assistant, Dr. Linda Foster, ran calculations on her computer. "If we could replicate this, we might be able to create our own faster-than-light drive." Exactly, Ryan nodded. And if humans can travel between stars, we wouldn't be trapped in our solar system, Linda finished his thought. Elsewhere, in factories around the world, humans built more fighters and satellites. On the moon, Captain Martinez trained more pilots. In orbit around Jupiter, engineers constructed a new type of space station, one that could move and fight. The quiet of the solar system was broken by constant activity as humanity prepared for the next battle. They had 3 months, and they intended to use every minute. On Imperial Center, the capital planet of the Zithar Collective, Emperor Vorthalic listened to Admiral Zevran's report with growing anger. "You failed," the Emperor said when the Admiral finished speaking. "You underestimated these humans." "My Emperor, they had technology they shouldn't possess," Zevran tried to explain. "Their fighters moved in ways that defied their known capabilities." The Emperor stood from his throne, towering over the Admiral. "You were defeated by primitives. This is unacceptable." From the side of the throne room, Imperial Fleet Commander Yarthalic stepped forward. "My Emperor, allow me to correct this situation. I will take 200 warships and crush these humans completely." Emperor Vorthalic considered, then nodded. "Do not fail me as Zevran did." As for Admiral Zevran, he was led away by Imperial guards. The punishment for failure was severe in the Empire. Fleet Commander Yarthalic bowed to his Emperor. "I will not underestimate these humans. 200 warships are more than enough to destroy their entire civilization." The Emperor waved his hand dismissively. "Go. Bring their planet under Imperial control." This was the Empire's third mistake. They still didn't understand what they were facing. They thought more ships alone would solve the problem. They didn't realize that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or numbers. It was their ability to adapt and work together when threatened. The next phase of the war was about to begin. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was usually a quiet place. Millions of rocks, from tiny pebbles to massive boulders, floated in the darkness. Now, this silent region of space became the front line of humanity's defense. Admiral Diane Powell stood on the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's first true warship. Built in just 2 months, it combined human engineering with reverse-engineered alien technology. "Status report," she ordered. Commander Steve Harris checked his displays. "All defense platforms are in position. Mining ships have placed sensor buoys throughout the belt. We'll know when they arrive." Admiral Powell nodded. "And Captain Martinez's fighters?" "Hidden behind the larger asteroids, as planned. The enemy won't detect them until it's too late." For the past 3 months, humanity had worked tirelessly. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a fortress. Mining explosives were converted to weapons. Communication relays were hidden inside hollow asteroids. Earth scientists and engineers had accomplished in weeks what should have taken years. "Admiral," a young officer called out, "deep space sensors are picking up multiple objects entering the solar system." Powell checked the display. "How many?" 200 ships, ma'am, just as our intelligence predicted." She took a deep breath. "Alert all stations. The enemy has arrived." Fleet Commander Yarthalic viewed the solar system on his command screen with confidence. His fleet of 200 warships was the largest force ever sent to subjugate a single planet. "Primitive defenses detected around the third planet," his sensor officer reported, "and some activity in the asteroid field ahead." Yarthalic smiled coldly. "They think they can hide in the rocks. How quaint." He turned to his communications. "Officer, send a message to all ships. Advance through the asteroid belt. Destroy any human vessels you encounter." The massive Zithar fleet moved forward, approaching the belt with overwhelming force. Inside a hollowed-out asteroid, Captain Olivia Martinez and her pilots waited. Their fighters were powered down to avoid detection. Only emergency life support. Systems remained active. "Remember," she said over her short-range communicator, "wait for the signal. John, your team takes the left flank. Luis, the right." John Kent and Luis Rodriguez acknowledged from their own hidden positions elsewhere in the belt. In another asteroid, a special team led by Major Greg Peterson checked their equipment one last time. These weren't pilots, but soldiers, trained for A very specific mission. Firefly drones ready? He asked. His tech specialist, Sergeant Nathan Cole, nodded. All programmed and waiting for deployment. The Fireflies were tiny, unmanned craft, no bigger than a human hand. Each carried a powerful electromagnetic pulse device. Too small to be tracked by Zithar sensors, they could attach to enemy ships and disrupt their systems from the inside. As the Zithar fleet entered the asteroid belt, the human defenders watched and waited. Admiral Powell counted down on her display. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now. Throughout the belt, hidden explosives detonated. Not aimed at the Zithar ships directly, that would have been useless against their shields, but at the asteroids themselves. Thousands of rocks shattered into millions of pieces, creating a chaotic debris field. On the Zithar command ship, alarms blared. Asteroid field destabilizing, an officer reported urgently. Navigation system struggling to compensate. Fleet Commander Yarthalik gripped his command chair. Maintain course. These are just rocks. But the debris wasn't just a navigation hazard. Hidden among the flying rocks were Admiral Powell's next surprise. Launch Fireflies, she ordered. From concealed positions, thousands of tiny drones activated. They blended in with the debris, impossible to distinguish from the fragments of destroyed asteroids. As they reached the Zithar ships, they attached to the hulls like metal dust to a magnet. On the lead Zithar ship, a junior officer noticed something strange on his monitor. Commander, I'm detecting small power fluctuations across multiple ships. Before Fleet Commander Yarthalik could respond, the Fireflies activated. Each one released its electromagnetic pulse directly against the ship's hulls. One drone could do little damage, but thousands working together created chaos. Ship after ship reported system failures, shield fluctuations, and navigation errors. The perfect formation of the Zithar fleet began to break apart as vessels struggled to maintain control. What is happening? Yarthalik demanded. His second-in-command looked up from the status reports with fear in his eyes. Some kind of attack, sir. Small devices attached to our hulls. The fleet commander slammed his fist on his chair. Destroy them. Use secondary weapons to clear our hulls. But the damage was already done. The once mighty fleet was now vulnerable, exactly as Admiral Powell had planned. All fighters launch now, she ordered. Captain Martinez activated her fighter along with dozens of others hidden throughout the belt. They shot out from their hiding places, catching the disorganized Zithar fleet by surprise. Target their weapon systems, she instructed her pilots. John, take your group after the smaller ships on the right flank. The human fighters darted between the massive alien vessels, firing precisely at the weakened spots in their shields. Unlike the previous battle, this time the humans weren't trying to disable the ships completely. Their goal was to split the fleet apart, to break its cohesion. Fleet Commander Yarthalik watched in growing horror as his carefully planned attack dissolved into chaos. Reform the fleet, he ordered. Group 7 and 8, protect the flanks. But his commands went unheard. The Fireflies had disrupted communications between ships. Each vessel now fought its own battle against the swarming human fighters. On Tsinondion, the Defiance, Admiral Powell monitored the battle with intense focus. It's working, Commander Harris said beside her. Their fleet is scattered. Powell nodded. Now for Phase 2. Signal Major Peterson. Major Greg Peterson and his team of 20 soldiers waited in their small, stealthy transport ship. When they received Admiral Powell's signal, Peterson turned to his team. This is it, people. Remember your training. Our target is the command ship. Get in, plant the devices, get out. As the Zithar fleet struggled against the fighters and debris field, Peterson's transport slipped between the battles. Using the chaos as cover, they approached the massive command ship from below. On board the Zithar flagship, Fleet Commander Yarthalik was too busy trying to regain control of his fleet to notice the small human vessel attaching to the underside of his ship. By the time the security systems detected the breach, Peterson's team was already inside. We've got 15 minutes before they organize a response, Peterson told his team as they moved through the alien corridors. Sergeant Cole checked his device. Engine room is this way. The human soldiers moved quickly, encountering little resistance. Most of the crew was dealing with the external attack. In the engine room, Cole placed small devices on key components. Transmitters in place, he reported. Now Earth scientists can study their propulsion system in detail. Peterson nodded. Second team report. Over his comm unit, Lieutenant Susan Baker's voice came through. Navigation system tagged. We're heading to the central computer now. While the Zithar fleet battled human fighters outside, Peterson's team completed their true mission, planting hidden monitoring devices throughout the command ship. These would transmit valuable data back to Earth, allowing scientists to understand Zithar technology better than ever before. All objectives complete, Peterson announced after 12 minutes. Everyone back to the transport. Move. As they retreated, alarms finally sounded throughout the ship. Fleet Commander Yarthalik received the report of intruders with disbelief. Humans? Inside my ship? How is this possible? His security chief, looking equally shocked, could only reply, "They've already left, Commander." The battle in the asteroid belt lasted for hours. Human fighters darted in and out, striking quickly before retreating into the debris field. The Zithar ships, powerful but cumbersome, struggled to respond effectively. Finally, Fleet Commander Yarthalik made a difficult decision. Order all ships to withdraw beyond the asteroid belt. We need to regroup. As the damaged Zithar fleet retreated, cheers erupted throughout the human forces. They had stood against the Empire's might and held their ground. On the Defiance, Admiral Powell didn't join in the celebration. "They'll be back," she said quietly, "and next time, they'll be better prepared." Commander Harris nodded. "So will we." On Earth, Dr. Ryan Miller worked frantically in his lab. The data from Peterson's mission streamed in, revealing secrets of the Zithar's faster-than-light technology. "I think I've got it," he said to Dr. Linda Foster. "Look at this equation." On his screen, a complex mathematical model showed how the Zithar engines bent space itself. Linda studied it, her eyes widening. "This could work," she whispered. "We could actually build this." Ryan nodded excitedly. "The first human faster-than-light engine. If we can travel between stars, we won't be trapped in our solar system anymore," Linda finished. They worked through the night, turning alien science into something humans could build. On Imperial Center, the Emperor received Fleet Commander Yarthalik's report with growing rage. 200 ships, he roared. 200 of our finest warships, and still these humans resist. Science Counselor Thelzara, an older female Zithar who had advised 3 emperors, spoke carefully.